Well, hello. It's Thursday, the 25th of July, 2019. You can see that lovely blue sky over there. According to my weather app, right at this moment, it's 34 degrees centigrade. And by this afternoon, they reckon it's going to be 37. It could even top 39 and be the hottest temperature on record in this country. England, obviously. So what a fantastic day to be stuck at work. Yeah, I'd love to be at the beach today more than anything. Unfortunately, I've got the fantastic task of replacing the front wheel bearing on a 55 plate Ford Focus, which is causing some problems because the drive shaft has seized itself into the hub flange. Come and have a look. So this is today's nightmare, a 2005 facelifted Ford Focus. I don't know where this car's been, but nothing wants to come apart on it. You'll notice I've removed the hub, the drive shaft and the shock absorber leg all as one assembly. Start off with this 15mm pinch bolt which holds your hub to your shock absorber is seized in. I have really put some strain on this bolt to try and undo it, and it is not moving. It is going to snap if I try and undo it. I've tried hitting the back of the leg where the threads are to shock it, but it's still not having none of it. So I'm going to leave that alone for the minute. The thing is, you don't have to actually remove the shock absorber strut from the hub to replace the front wheel bearing on a Focus. And that 15mm pinch bolt, chances are, if I messed around a bit long enough, I would get it out. But it's just time consuming and time I haven't really got. So I'm going to leave it alone. And I've actually thought to myself, maybe I should just get a new hub and shock absorber assembly and drive shaft from the scrapyard. It'd be second-hand parts and just bung them all on. That'd be the easy way out of it. Unfortunately, my local breakers yard haven't got the parts I need. So I'm going to go down the route of trying to replace the bearing anyway. But I've got an added problem here. This drive shaft is literally welded itself into the hub flange. The splines in this hub flange are so rusty, they've literally rusted themselves onto the splines on this drive shaft. So much to the point that I've used a pin punch in here, hitting it to try and knock the drive shaft out. It hasn't budged it. I then, out of desperation, proceeded to use an air chisel, and this is a very powerful air chisel, to try and punch the drive shaft out, shock it out. But no, this was having zero effect as well. And as you can notice, I've made a right mess of the end of the drive shaft. In fact, the bolt that goes through into the hole in the middle of the drive shaft and bolts it up is never going to go back in that hole where I've crimped it over too much now. So I should think at the very least I'm looking at a new wheel bearing and flange assembly and a new outer drive shaft joint. In fact, just to show you, ear protection's important. We'll have another go. That has not moved. What? That has not moved 1 goddamn millimetre. We're going to need a press. So I think what I'll do to start with, I'll tip that up a little bit, and I'm going to fill this with a load of freon oil. And I'm going to let that freon oil sit in there. So I'm going to let that freon oil soak for a while. However long a while is, I don't know. It could be 5 minutes, it could be 5 hours. It depends how bad my next job is on this day of 37 degrees. It is absolutely frigging hot out there. I've just walked across that yard and the heat just hits you. Right, let's see if we can stick this little lot in the press. So it's all set up in the press now. All I've got to do is pull the handle and see if we can press it out. And this is a 30-ton press. So hopefully, I don't know, we'll see. I'm going to go a bit carefully because we could actually warp this actual hub unit trying to push this out, or even crack it when I've got it balanced. That's certainly got some pressure on it now. 3/4 of a ton so far. I'll just see if giving it a bit of a tap might help it along the way. Whoa, I think that's just gone. I had literally 1 ton of pressure on that drive shaft. Nice whack with a hammer. And it went bang! Do you hear it? Well, anyway, excitement's over. At least it's moving. Now I'm going to press it out the rest of the bloody way. I'll tell you what, that was flipping still tight in there. It's literally gone bang again. Flipping heck. That is one tough drive shaft. Talk about being seized in there. It's still tight. Yeah, it's going. Holy shit. I think we can safely say that's definitely out. Well, look at the flipping rust on that. Right, I'll just put this back over on the bench for a minute. These wheel bearings, you see where the flange is like splayed over the end of the bearing. So that's where the drive shaft sits, just here. So actually this whole bearing and hub flange all comes as one great big assembly. So what I'm going to do is, now the drive shaft is finally out, I'm going to put this back in the press and see if we can press the bearing out. This drive shaft joint that I've completely mullered, I wasn't going to use it again anyway, simply for the fact these splines are so badly corroded. I'd never use that again, but I've taken the boot off, and you can just hit these with a hammer quite hard and they should come clean off. There you go. Yuck. Back in the old press again. Look at all these spacers, because I'm too lazy to lift the runners up 1 notch. Anyway, I'm going to start pressing this handle now. I wonder how tight this wheel bearing hub is going to be. So we're up to about 1/2 ton now. Oh, it's gone! You hear that? You hear that bang? That was the bearing jumped. It's gone down a bit. It's moved. And now it's just a case of keep going, keep it moving. That is the secret. Once you get the bearings moved, initially moved, keep pumping the bloody handle and keep it moving till it falls out. Flipping state of that. That is rusty as hell. In actual fact, this bearing is, I think you probably can't hear it, but it is as rough as hell. Anyway, bye-bye. Before I put the bearing back in this hub, I'm going to clean up the little ABS sensor here. Just make sure there's not any crap or metal filings on it. Then I'm going to get a bit of emery cloth and just give it a quick wipe around in there. You'll notice there's a ridge down the bottom of this hub. So when the new bearing gets pressed in, it will butt up against that ridge, and that's as far as you'll be able to go with it, so you know when to stop. I'm also going to smear a bit of grease around in this hub as well, just so it just aids the actual bearing going in, so it can slide in a bit easier. Not too much though, just a thin, very thin smear. Ta-da! One shiny new bearing. Look at that. Isn't that nice? And it also comes with a new bolt to bolt the drive shaft up. I'm just going to smear a bit of grease around the outer casing of this bearing as well. Now this is the important part. You need to get this square in this hub, so to speak, initially. So I'm just going to give it a few light taps and just make sure that it's sitting nice and square and flush. And once that's in, all nice and flush around this hub, now we'll go over and we'll press the rest of it in. Yeah! Heavy. In fact, pressing this new hub in is a damn sight easier than taking it out. Because I'm now going to press the hub onto the actual bearing and flange assembly. And as the flange is level on these plates, it should just push in. Just watch that as you're pressing it down. If it slides on nice and smoothly, you can see it going in, you know you're okay. If it goes tight, you might have a problem. Just make sure it's not going in pissed. But that's actually going in nicely. I can't press that handle anymore, and that's about half a ton of pressure. So that's as far as the bearing's going to go in. And there you go, one brand new wheel bearing fitted. Notice the ABS sensor still intact, not damaged at all. So I'm going to pop this back on the car. I've got a brand new drive shaft joint coming tomorrow, and because this splines near a brand new, the drive shaft's going to be brand new as well. I'll put plenty of grease inside here, and that way the new drive shaft will slide in there, and hopefully it won't seize up again anytime soon. As for this 15mm pinch bolt, I'm going to leave it because I've got no reason to take it out and just give myself more headaches. I'll just put this back on the car now and get rid of it. To put this leg back in the car, it's easier if you've got an assistant, because you literally got to lift this leg up into the wheel arch and then line up your 3 13mm bolts and screw them in to the top of the strut. Hard part over. Now just a case of sliding back in this scuffle wheel and refitting your wipers. And obviously the rest of it is your bottom ball joint, your anti-roll bar drop link, your steering track rod end, your brake caliper and disc. It's all pretty straightforward stuff you've got to bolt up. And as that's a brand new hub and drive shaft, that will go back together lovely. Thank God. Can you imagine having to do this on your drive at home? If you had to take this apart, you'd probably never get it off the car to start with. What an absolute nightmare. It just shows how things can rust up on cars. And yet you can get another car, probably the same year, everything will probably fall apart. But yeah, if you had a job like this, you wouldn't be able to do it yourself. And I'll give you a piece of advice now. Don't ever try and remove, like the wheel bearing from the hub with a hammer and a punch. You ain't going to do it. They're just in too tight. You really have to have a press. I wouldn't even use a vice. You could probably snap a vice in half trying to push one of them out. And that drive shaft, well, that was something else. That really was in tight. It just shows how important it is to have a press. Anyway, there's one last thing for me to do before I say goodbye. If you watch the previous video, which you can see here, I'm going to exact a little bit of revenge.
As long as you're within 10 days, perfect. It's perfect.
Yo, money. Payback.